There's nothing more satisfying than a blood ritual under the full moon. You selected a fine goat for me. I thank you. Of course, I'm the one that made the local goats prosper in the first place. So, should I thank myself instead? Oh, why so dour? You know, making sacrifices to a demon doesn't suddenly become less morally wrong if you do it with a scowl on your face. You might as well enjoy yourself a little. Besides, all you're doing is securing your kingdom's future. Auric is doing wonderfully, isn't it? You just announced that new school so that all children in the kingdom can receive a full, equal education. You wouldn't have been able to do that if you were struggling to feed everyone or fending off a larger nation's army, would you? Really, I think humans are the only creatures who could be so upset to be thriving. I'm so sorry that you can't be safe and well-fed while also not making any hard choices at all. It must be so hard for you. You say that, but I'm not the one stealing your people's mana. You are. You and all your ancestors. Let's not forget that you weren't forced into anything. You're participating in the contract by choice. Speaking of which, how goes construction? If I recall correctly, your mana collection facility is being framed as a peace monument, correct? Oh no, I think it's quite fitting. It is what's bringing peace to your kingdom, is it not? But you know, perhaps you didn't realize this, but I can see everything that goes on within the borders of this kingdom. And recently, I was concerned that you were making some errors in your construction. Well, you see, perhaps you didn't realize, but the talismans I provided you were supposed to remain unaltered. Your job was to bury them underneath the monument, but I noticed that you handed them over to your scholars instead. They've been playing around with them. Yes, and in a very dangerous way, too. Why, these altered talismans would actually steal mana from me and redistribute it to your people. It's a good thing I noticed. We'll drop the pretense then. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? Even if I hadn't seen what you were doing with my own eyes, surely you didn't think I wouldn't feel the mana being sucked out of me. What am I going to do? First, why don't you tell me what you're going to do to make it right? Well, that's a start. But you were supposed to be using the right talismans in the first place. If you want to make it up to me, I need something beyond what you are already obligated to do. To tell you the truth, I'm not actually very angry. It was amusing to watch you try to sneak around behind my back, forming your little secret society of rebels, calling yourselves the Path to the Light. Adorable. Your plan was never a threat to me at all, but if I didn't come up with some sort of punishment, you'd be encouraged to keep trying to trick me. Who knows? With enough attempts, you might actually stumble onto something that really would threaten me. Stranger things have happened. I think I'll be taking some of your lifespan. Say 10 years. Well, it wasn't in the deal for you to try and betray me either. If you wanted to live a long life, you shouldn't have tried to double-cross an archdemon. Oh, and I know exactly how long you were going to live. You weren't exactly going to be reaching a ripe old age even before. So if I were you, I'd hurry up and start looking for someone to help you produce an heir if you want a bloodline. But you know, I can see many things, but I can't read minds. And because of that, I'm just dying to know, what were you really trying to do? What was your plan? I could see that you're making preparations to try and survive without the contract. Storing food, experimenting with growing crops in poor soil, trying to strengthen alliances with neighboring kingdoms. But why? Why go through all that trouble when you already have all you need? No technique for growing crops would ever yield as much as you got with the magically rich soil and favorable weather I provide. And you could never be as safe from attack as you would with me, influencing the minds of the other kingdom's rulers. Why do you hate being successful? Is this a matter of pride? Do you feel weak because you're not directly responsible for your own success? You know, I've never even once met a human who was glad to make a deal with me. It's always done with groaning and self-pity. Is it because of the prices I ask for? What do you humans expect? You ask for grand favors, power, wealth, fame, immortality, and then are so upset when you find out that those things are expensive. I have been called greedy countless times, but I've never met anything greedier than a human. You all think you're entitled to everything you want just for being alive. The world's not so generous as to hand over happiness and prosperity for free, no matter how much you think you deserve it. You need to pay for it. And that's exactly what you're doing. tainted. Can't you hear yourself? You think your prosperity is tainted because a demon gave it to you? What does that even mean? You've had it too easy. Your ancestor forged a contract with me because tainted food is better than none. Because a tainted peace is better than war. A few years without my help, and you'd be crawling back to me, begging for tainted happiness. There are no rules in life, you know. None aside from the ones that people in power, like you, set for yourselves. There is no cheating. There is no fair play. There's only the things that you want, and the things that get you what you want. You know, before I first started dealing with kings and rulers, I had always thought that they were a lot like demons. People who knew what they wanted and knew how to get them. I never would have guessed that they would be more worried about the right thing than anyone else, even as they go and do the exact opposite. It's funny to me that you and your ancestors are the exact same way. I would have thought that all of you would have more perspective. Well, do you really want to know why? I've been holding on to this little nugget of truth for a long time. You see, you're more similar to me than you realize. You're part demon yourself. I've done many things in my long life, but I've never once lied. I speak the pure, unadulterated truth. When we first met, I told you something. I said it offhand, but it was a hint. I told you that I've done many favors for your ancestors. I even married one of them. Of course. I did more than stand around and look good. Together, we produced their heir, your ancestor. You're my great, I forget how many greats, grandchild. Demon blood doesn't manifest strongly unless it's pure. There's no reason you would have noticed. Especially in this kingdom where your mana is constantly drained from you. But you aren't entirely human. I had always assumed that meant that this aversion to demonic contracts was something that was learned, not something inherent in humans. But none of you ever seemed to come around to my way of thinking, no matter what I say. It seems that neither word nor blood can convince a human of the truth. But that's enough of my rambling. I don't mind if you never agree with me. Just so long as you never, ever try to violate the terms of our contract ever again. Just be grateful that I didn't end it here and now. It's about time for me to leave, I think. But first, I need to collect what you owe me. Now I warn you, this will not feel comfortable. A lot like having a rib pulled out of your torso, I'm told. Though I have no idea how anyone alive could know what that feels like. There. 10 years. Actually, just a little bit less. I want you to live long enough to, well, let's not spoil it. Think of it as something to look forward to. Until the next full moon. Unless you summon me sooner. Ta-ta, human.